Hey, everybody. Yay. So glad we're live now.
Second time's a charm.
Yes. Hey, Pam. Hopefully you can see us and hear us okay now. Good morning to all of you. And good morning to you live from Red Bluff, California. I said we were going to be outside today, but it is quite chilly this morning. So
Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Smoky Red Bluff, California.
Yeah, I'm trying to spend a little bit less time outdoors, unfortunately, right now, because of the air quality being very poor. So, so say hello. Let us know where you're joining in from, and we are going to get started.
All right. So, have you ever been around someone that just could not admit they had done something wrong? We all know somebody like that, right? They offend somebody, or they're rude, probably me. Or
Jim would probably agree.
I am not even going to get into that. I'm busy right now talking. But they offend somebody, or they're rude to someone, or they just treat somebody poorly, and they don't do what they say. All kinds of things that it could be. But that person has offended somebody, but they refuse to admit it.
If you don't know somebody like that, that person's probably you.
It's probably you. Just saying.
Yeah.
But when, even if you confront them about it, they diminish it, or they push it off, or they say it wasn't a big deal, or that you misunderstood and it's your fault, and they reflect it back to you. So they refuse to admit they've done anything wrong. They refuse. It almost reminds me of that story that you probably heard about the guy that he said that he was never wrong, ever, about anything. Well, there was one time that he thought he was wrong, but it turns out he was mistaken. Sorry. I know that's not very funny, but it fit the story. It fit what we're doing, so I had to go there.
That's kind of corny.
But, yeah, it's not kind of corny.
I mean, but actually pretty true for a lot of people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, so I'm curious, actually, where I'm losing our feed here. Sorry. So I'm trying to find where we are here, because I think there's a way to share with you guys. Ooh, turn that volume down. I wonder if that's can you guys still hear us okay?
Hopefully you're not hearing the echo of us talking through the computer. Can you just mute it and it'd be okay?
I don't know. Well, let us know if you can still hear us.
You should be able to hear us.
Even though we have things muted our speakers. Yeah, I don't know where I find our little things that we set up.
I don't know.
I don't know.
What happens if you click the hamburger?
I don't see it.
Huh.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Moving on. Oops.
Moving right along.
Went to the wrong screen here. Sometimes technology can get us in trouble.
What happened to the simple Facebook Live? Just you and a telephone. Those days are gone.
So those of you who may be joining us for the first time, my name is Amy Miller. I am a wife to this guy right here, Jim, who is really actually a real life superhero. Not just saying that. And those of you know the backstory on that, you know that we'll have to share that story sometime. So
me wearing tights.
He has spent decades being mentored by award-winning coaches, and who has also coached. I
have coached.
Coach. That's a new word for you. Coached and mentored hundreds in sports and in life and in spiritual health and wellness. And this is our Free Friday. This is our weekly series on Fridays, of course, to address freedom in our lives, to experience life more fully, more abundantly.
Yeah.
And just a bonus if we can also do that naturally. And we love partnering with, we have now thousands of families that we are partnering with who are committed to living a life more of freedom as well. And today, we are hopefully going to help you have a sense of freedom to up level in your life.
Yeah.
Being free to change and learn and grow, and free to confess. I feel like that's kind of a, like, even just saying that word out loud is painful.
It can be hard.
Don't you think? Just even saying like free to confess, it just feels a little painful.
Yeah. Confession can be a tough one. And definitely something, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. We're going to talk about what is confession and 5 benefits to confession, especially if right now you're like, I'm just going to turn this live video off right here because I don't even want to, nope, confession, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So before you hit the get off the live feed button or get off the replay,
or the next whatever button it is,
or the next whatever button it is, hang with us. And even if you're watching this after the live, we want to hear from you. So let's talk about just briefly what is confession, and then jump into some benefits, right? Because maybe you're like, I can't think of one benefit to any of it.
Yeah. So basically, if we look at the kind of the history of the word, confession just means to admit something, right? Or to say something out loud, basically, is what it is. So if you look at kind of the religious context, then a confession would be when you speak out your faith or your belief system and you say it out loud. So we've heard of, a Catholic confession or different confessions that you can make that say what you believe. But in the context that we're talking about it,
like a declaration.
A declaration, yeah. In the context that we're using it today, we're talking about confession as in the sense of admitting a crime or admitting a wrongdoing. So confession is the admission of fault, basically, is what we're looking at. So, and really what we want you to think of this is this. What does it come down to? Ultimately, what's your goal in life? Your goal in life, if your goal in life is to kind of coast through on the easy button, then confession is really probably not for you. Well, actually, I would argue and say that if that's your goal, then confession is definitely something you should incorporate. But just to help you on the sense, and we'll talk about some of the psychology behind that in a little bit, but really, if you want to improve, if you want to get better, if you want to become more of who you are and a better version of yourself, then confession is absolutely foundational to that enterprise. You cannot improve without confession. So are you trying, and we're not speaking in a sense of perfection, right? Perfection should never be our goal. To be excellent and to be the very best should be our goal, but perfection it's unattainable. It puts an undue pressure on you and the people around you. And so if you're aiming at perfection, you're gonna be frustrated and angry. But if you're aiming for better or best, then you have to look at the things that you're not doing best and better. You have to be able to look at those things. And so part of that is going to be just this idea of looking at fault and seeing fault in all of its different arrays in your life so that you can then begin to move forward. But if you just see the fault that you have and you don't do something about it, then it just festers and it sits and it stays there. You have to have a clean slate, so to speak, and that's where confession steps in. So confession is the part of your life that allows you to see a fault and to speak it out, and then which removes the strength of that weakness or that fault in your life and allows you to move forward.
Yeah. I'm just going to push this down here for a minute, but and so, yeah, what it really comes down to is, what is your goal ultimately in life? Is your aim to be perfect? Is that what you already said?
Yeah.
And so really, this is kind of a deep subject. So when it, let's talk about, and comment below, what is your goal ultimately, and if it is to become a better version of yourself or to become more mature, then then let's talk about some of the benefits to this confession. You know, we already talked last week about having a freedom to adore and not be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
No problem for me.
When you find yourself not being the smartest person in the room, or you find yourself spending time getting to know the character of those who are smarter than you or better than you, or then you find yourself not being perfect, right?
Yeah, you begin to realize that you aren't perfect, and you begin to realize that you've got room to improve. And you know, a lot of times everybody knows it. let's look at the fact. Everybody sees it, and when you don't say something about it, then you're just kind of, you're holding on to something that you don't need to. Honestly, you don't need to. So that begs the question then. So what are the things that keep us from confessing? So what is it that keeps you from admitting a fault, or that keeps you from apologizing to somebody? So what would you say are some of the hangups that we have? And I know it's different for everybody, but why don't you comment below and just let us know one of the things. Maybe it's embarrassment.
Fear of not looking perfect. You know, maybe you think that people look at you and see that you should be perfect, and you realize you're not, and so you don't want to admit that.
Right. Yeah.
Pride.
Totally. Yeah. Sometimes it's just the inability or the refusal to look at yourself and examine yourself honestly.
From the outside looking in.
Not on the outside looking in. And that's one of the things that separates us from an animal, is the ability to step outside of yourself and to look at yourself, to see the situation for what it is, and to see the response that you had to the situation, and to own it, to admit, I could have done better. I could have done something there that was not wrong. I could have handled that better. To step outside of yourself and to remove everybody else from the equation, and just to say, I could have done a better job.
Yeah.
That's hard to do, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that sometimes.
Yeah. So let's talk about some benefits. Okay. Let's start some freedom here.
Yeah.
The first benefit is when you confess, the weight of that, whatever that is that needs to be confessed, is lifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can anybody, yes. Have you felt that weight like come off, like a huge like release?
Right.
When you confess? Yeah.
Yeah. So we take the thing that's been pushing you down. And so a lot of people would say this, that my sin is the thing that I've done wrong is yawn induced. It's not even worth mentioning. It's boring. It is not a big deal. Okay. And so you would say that the thing that you've done wrong is not a big deal, but why is it still on your mind? Why is it still gnawing away at you? The fact is that we know that we did something wrong, and it doesn't matter how big or small it is. And I would go so far as to say that the smaller ones, those are just as important to admit as the bigger ones, because again, that helps you to acknowledge the thing that you've done wrong and to begin to move forward with it and to change it. And this is, in some ways, I think a lot of people will listen to this and they will think that we're talking about heaven versus hell. Like, confessing means that you get to go to heaven. Not confessing means that you're going to go to hell. But really, this is barriers between people, barriers between you and God, barriers between you and the version of you that you want to be. And so all of these things, the barriers all are there because of this mistake, this fault, this wrong thing that you've done. And as you begin to confess, as you begin to put those things out there, then those barriers are removed. And so it allows you then to move forward and to step into that space that you couldn't step into before. So I hope that makes sense. But then, so that kind of brings up the second one. So the first one is that the weight is removed. You feel better about it. But then secondly, the barrier is removed.
Yeah, that wall that was once there between you and that other person, or you and a group of people, or... Right.
So there are times that I've done something to Amy that has offended her, hurt her, upset her in some way. And then I go on and I'm trying to do other things. And then I come back to her and she'll say, things are still not right between us. And what she's doing is she's trying to give me an opportunity to to get that barrier out of the way. And
Yeah.
right now, if I have not confessed that I did something wrong and sought forgiveness, then that barrier is still there. And even if we move on a day, a week, a year down the road, there's still something in there that's between us.
Yeah.
And she's not consciously sitting on it and thinking, but it creates in her a reticence to open up to me, to be intimate, and to be vulnerable with
Hmm.
me. And so I need to repair that breach. I need to remove that, and I need to remove that barrier, and then move into that reparation mode. And that's actually the third part.
Yeah.
So
The third benefit is that repairs can begin. Heal. That's where true healing can begin.
yeah,
And I love that it can begin to just remove that barrier, and then healing can begin. And then fourth benefit is integrity grows,
hmm
right? What's the definition of integrity? It's what you do when no one is looking.
yeah,
And so maybe the thing that you're confessing to another person or group of people, maybe they had no idea about this whatever that you need to confess.
right,
And so the integrity shoots through the roof, because um, they not only realize, wow, we didn't know about this. This is something you were doing, but then, wow, you brought it into the light,
yeah,
even when you could have let it go where no one continued to know.
yeah, yeah. And so and then that inspires confidence in that other person too. If you confess something to them and they didn't really know about it, then yeah, there's going to be the fact that they'll be upset about it, but that it inspires confidence that the person that you seem to be is the person that you really are. Because when there's any kind of dissonance there, you come out and you say what's going on, and you let them know without them having to dig and seek after it.
Yeah.
So, so the weight is removed, the barriers are removed, the repairs can begin. You begin to have more integrity, and then that also begins to inspire the community. I can think of so many times that I've heard somebody stand up and confess something in front of a group of people, and everybody in the group, instead of that person being shunned and pushed away, that person is embraced because they have admitted fault, they've admitted to being human, they've admitted their weakness, and everybody can relate to that. That's the fact. The fact is that everybody has something in their life. Everybody has something that they're hung up on that is holding them back. And so as you begin to admit weakness, and then other people begin to admit weakness, then we have this community of people, and we're inspiring each other
Yeah.
as a community, and the community is strengthened through that. And
Yeah.
so we become more of a cohesive unit, and we're able to move forward in a better way because we have been
Yeah.
honest about
And
it.
maybe that community is just your family members
Yeah, totally, totally. And it
that
can be a
you're,
big one or a small
yeah.
community. Yeah.
I just want to say a quick caveat to, you know, these benefits really are required by healthy people,
hmm
spiritually and emotionally.
Right.
Maybe you have taken a time to confess something to someone or group of people, and the barriers weren't removed,
Yeah.
and the repairs haven't begun.
Right.
And I say to those of you, you've done your part. You cannot, obviously, you can't force the other party, the other people that the confession is going to, for them to begin to receive that
hmm
in a healthy way. And so sometimes that's painful as well, but the weight has still been released from you,
hmm
even if the barriers haven't been removed right away. Maybe it's something that's taking some time to remove them. Sometimes that doesn't happen right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we still see these benefits. And those of you who are on with us live, I'm going to share just in just a minute some, if you're really struggling with this and need some tools to help you kind of push through this and move forward, I'm going to give you some tools. Okay.
So let me before we do that, I'm just going to very briefly, I want to say this, that confession is an attitude that we take on in our life. It's the cornerstone of an intentional life. And I got this quote from a guy named Paul Wilkes, who's the author of a book called The Art of Confession. But it is the cornerstone of the intentional life, not merely a clearing out of the debris, that which is bad or wrong in us, but a realignment of what is best in us, an intention to live a better life. There's a great thing that just goes right alongside that. It's the 4 steps to how to apologize. Is something we teach our kids. But you have to admit you've done wrong, say what you should have done, say why it was wrong, and then ask for the apology. And then, so those are pretty big.
Or ask for forgiveness.
Ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry, ask for forgiveness. And so that's a pretty big deal to go back to recognize the fact that we've made a mistake that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry.
So if you're needing some additional tools, maybe to move through this process, I have a couple of essential oils that actually can help you. Now, believe it or not, essential oils have physical benefits, but they also have emotional and even some spiritual benefits. And for those of you who maybe you're like a guy who's on and you're like, are you kidding me? Quit sharing this hocus pocus weirdo voodoo stuff with us. Listen, I'm a researcher at heart, and I've done a lot of research, and there's a lot of science connected to how these can really benefit you emotionally in life, in addition to physical benefits. So if you are not utilizing these in your life for emotional benefits, or maybe you're not even using them at all, maybe it's time to start bringing them into your life. Because I'm going to give you 3 oils that are very beneficial to this process. The first one is copaiba. Now, maybe you guys have been hearing a lot about copaiba and all of its benefits with managing pain and with nerves, and is it legal? Is it not legal in all 50 states? But listen, this oil is the oil of unveiling. Now I'm taking this from the Emotions and Essential Oils book, the 6th edition. Enlighten Healing shares some great information. You want to hold that one? Because this oil can help when you are using it aromatically, like from the bottle, smelling it out of the bottle, or putting it over your heart. This can actually help you, take you from feeling shameful and guilty or regretful about something, and to have more clarity and more purpose in that. Taking you from that rebellion that you know in your heart. And the coolest thing about this is no one has to even know that that's why you're using it, right?
There's so many benefits for this oil.
You know, but really just helps you kind of connect with your past and unveil that truth that needs to be confessed and come forward in that. The second one that can be beneficial in this process too, and this is kind of along the same lines, but this is black pepper. Interestingly enough, this same oil helps physically also with, among other things, helps with pain as well. So I find it interesting that both of these physically can help with pain.
Yeah.
It can be painful to deal with that, but this is the oil of unmasking. When you're having this facade of maybe it's perfection, like we talked about earlier, but takes you from feeling that emotional dishonesty and repressed emotions, maybe prideful, and helps you become more courageous and authentic in that, more self-aware. We talked about that, stepping outside of ourselves and actually viewing us that way.
Yeah.
And so helps you kind of get real and just remove that veil.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then the last one that is so beneficial is arbor vitae. Now, this oil is like Jim's like love language. Okay. It's a tree oil. Okay. So this is a tree, but listen to the benefits of this oil. It's the oil of divine grace. So if you're feeling like, man, I need to make progress in this area, I'm feeling really willful about this, I'm rigid, I'm fearful about this, this will help you, take you to a surrender. And a spiritual aspect as well as emotionally, surrendering your pride and really connecting to God. And so again, all of these, you can inhale it from the bottle to help you benefit from that. You can diffuse it in your diffuser.
Sure.
In fact, these these oils go really well together. So you could actually diffuse some of them together. Man, you're like, I need all of those. Okay. You could actually diffuse these together or apply them over your heart, and really in your time alone with God every morning, use those to help kind of bring that forth if you know you need to move forward in this, but are just you're feeling kind of stuck in that. So I'm curious, comment below, what do you see as the best benefit to confession?
Yeah.
We want to hear from you about that. And, this is an area that I struggle with. I mean, I think we all do on some level, right? But I recognize it, and I'm actually using the Copaiba on a regular basis, and sometimes I'll also add in the Arbor Vitae, but it really can help you become more self-aware and really begin to recognize those times that you need to confess. So hey, so those of you who are joining us at the just now, make sure you go back to the beginning where we shared these 3 oils that can really help you during this time. And about to sign off. Now, we're not going to have Free Friday next week. We want you all to celebrate Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We're so thankful to all of you who are joining with us. But the following week on November 30th, we're going to continue this Acts of Greatness series.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about I Heart You. Hashtag, we're going to be free to be content and free to be thankful. We're going to continue on in this Acts of Greatness and thinking about thankfulness and Thanksgiving. Okay. So hope you guys join us all next week, and or not next week, 2 weeks from now. And you guys have a great Friday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.